Hi everyone, we are living in unprecedented times at the moment with mass uncertainty in the education world despite recent announcements that have been made. I felt the need to make this video urgently to give you an update as to where we are, the current situation, but also to give you the implications of the information we know and my advice for you guys going forward. I want to stress though, guys, that this video is not just for A-level economics students. For any A-level student, this video is going to be really helpful, but also for any GCSE student. So for any other students that you think could benefit, please do. First of all, watch the entire video, but also share the video with all of your friends who could benefit from the information that I present here. I also want to let you know, guys, that I am feeling very, very low at the moment. No doubt you are feeling exactly the same way. I feel so sorry for you for the situation that's been forced upon you. But hopefully, at the end of this video, you might feel a little bit better, you might have more clarity. But still, if you have questions you want to ask, I am there for you, and that's what I want to make sure I am doing. Anything that you guys need, feel free to email me, feel free to drop me a message on Instagram. I am there to help you guys. So let's get started. Where are we at the moment? What do we know information-wise? Well, we know first of all that teachers are going to have to submit to exam boards a grade, a judgment grade, based on how they feel a student would have achieved if the exams had gone ahead. And teachers have to make that judgment grade, that call, based on data and evidence that they have. Now that could be mock exams, that could be non-exam assessment, but it needs to be based on some kind of data, on some kind of evidence. Now, crucial information for you guys is that this is not the same as a UCAS predicted grade, completely different. Exam boards don't like UCAS predicted grades at all because they're often wrong. In fact, evidence says that 50% of the time, the actual grade that students receive is either a grade higher or a grade lower than what the UCAS predicted grade was. So UCAS predicted grades are completely out of the question. Your judgment grade might be wildly different from that. You just don't know. So this judgment grade is totally different. The way it's going to be made is also totally different. You have to bear that in mind. There is uncertainty with what it's going to be, and even teachers have uncertainty. Teachers right now do not know exactly what the correct process is of coming out with that judgment grade. They're going to be liaising with exam boards. There is uncertainty with teachers as well at the moment. When exam boards receive that judgment grade from teachers, they will then combine that with other data that exam boards have, such as prior attainment of you, the student, to then form a final calculated grade. That will be your A-level or your GCSE. So you can see that the teacher's judgment grade is not definitely going to be your final A-level or your final GCSE. It's going to be combined with data that exam boards have about you. The combination will provide the final calculated grade, which will be your A-level or your GCSE. That's very important. Now, like we said, liaison is still going to take place between exam boards and teachers. So we're not exactly sure on the full process and especially how teachers are going to get that judgment grade they're going to provide to exam boards. But what exam boards have said is that they aim to publish your final A-level grades, your final GCSE grades by the end of July. That is an aim. It's not guaranteed, but that's what they've said they are aiming for. So by that point, you should know what your grade actually is, your final A-level or GCSE grade. But also they have said that you will be able to appeal that decision. If you think it's not fair, it's not a great representation of what you could have achieved if the exams had gone ahead, you're able to appeal that decision. But even if your appeal is unsuccessful, exam boards have put into place a brand new exam period just for this year, given the situation we're in, to take place early in the autumn term. Now that's an option if you think the grade that you've got isn't fair from this process. If you've appealed and it's been unsuccessful, you have an option to sit exams in the early part of the autumn term. Or if you feel that this process is so unjust and so against you, it's not going to work in your interest, it's not going to help you get to a university, then you can just simply choose to say, I'm going to sit the exam in the autumn term instead. It's also very important for you guys to know that exam boards have said the grades issued are going to follow the same patterns as previous years, the same distributions as previous years. So it's no good sitting back thinking that, oh, grades are now going to be massively inflated. There are going to be so many more A's and A stars issued, right, because of this process. No, the distribution of grades is going to be exactly the same as previous years. So it might not go as well as you think it could. That's important to bear in mind. Hence, there is an appeal process. Hence, there is an ability for you to sit exams in the early part of the autumn term. And last thing to stress in terms of information is that it's traditional A-levels and traditional GCSEs that have been cancelled. As of the making of this video, international A-levels, so IALs, IGCSE exams and IB exams are still due to continue exactly as planned. Now, obviously, this is a fluid situation. Those decisions could change in the next few days, but as of the making of this video, IGCSEs, IA levels, and IB exams are due to continue. The cancellation of A levels and GCSEs are only the traditional ones, and therefore it's only those students that have to follow the process I just outlined. So knowing all of this information, what are the implications? Well, it's obvious. If you're an international A-level student, if you're doing IA levels, if you're doing IGCSEs, if you're doing IB exams, obviously you guys continue as normal. You study because your exams right now are due to continue as planned. So you continue your revision, you continue your study. But what if you're doing traditional A levels, traditional GCSEs? Well, the implications for you are very different. Teachers can go one of four ways with this. What teachers could do is implement a system of assessment to help them form their judgment grade. They might decide that now, they might decide that in the near future, or they could ask you for some evidence. They might ask you to write essays or provide something that again is going to help them form their judgment grade. Again, that could happen now, or it could happen in the near future. You just don't know. But teachers could easily go that way, implement something right now whereby they're going to collect evidence, whereby they're going to form their judgment grade. That will happen if teachers feel they don't have the right kind of evidence at the moment to make such an important judgment call. So that's one major implication. Teachers could go that way. Alternatively, teachers could say, do you know what? We have enough evidence at the moment. We are happy with the evidence that we have to make a judgment call, to make a grade, to send to exam boards about how students would have scored or would have achieved if the exams had gone ahead. So teachers might say, we don't want anything from you guys. We're not going to implement any assessments. We're not going to ask for any more evidence. We've got what we need. Teachers could easily go that way. Another very likely approach is that teachers could implement a delay tactic. They could email you, they could tell you that, look, at the moment, because still liaison is going to take place between us and the exam boards, we don't want to make a firm call at the moment whether we're going to implement assessment, whether we're going to ask you for some evidence, or whether we're going to say, no, you don't need to provide anything at all. They might say, look, we're going to delay until we speak to exam boards, until they tell us in more detail how we can make this judgment call, what the process should be, what a fair judgment grade process will be. We are going to wait. And therefore, we'll email you in due course when we make our decision. That could be a tactic that teachers use, delay for the time being. Or teachers might not correspond with you at all. You might not receive any information from teachers because teachers might be concerned about conflict of interest. They might be concerned about influence when it comes to making their judgment call. So they may simply say, we're not going to contact you one bit. We're just going to decide on our own as a department, absolutely no communication with students. So 4 options that teachers could take. Depending on what teachers do, what should you guys do? What's my advice to you? I have thought really long and really hard about the best advice that I can give you at this stage, given the huge uncertainty we find ourselves in. And the way I've done it is to put myself in the shoes of you guys, to think like a student. If I was a student, what would I be doing in this current situation? And my advice to you, regardless of the avenue your teacher goes down, whichever one of the 4 options your teacher picks right now or in the future, the best advice is to continue studying. And I'm going to explain how you should continue studying and why you should continue studying, whether you're an economics student or whether it's another subject. That's my best advice, regardless of the option that your teacher picks. Okay, so how should you continue studying? Well, go over to your exam board website and download your spec if you haven't got your spec already. And go through the spec. That's all the content that you need to have notes for, and continue making your revision notes that cover all the content of your course. You want to finish your course. You want to finish your study. You want to have revision notes ready for every single part of your course. And continue doing it as if exams were going ahead, right? So use the same sources that you would have done originally. If it's the videos on the channel, if it's certain textbooks you like, if it's the notes that you got from school, whatever, use the same sources you would have done and make your revision notes complete. Finish off the course. Now that is not a big deal. That's not a big task. There's no doubt you guys would have made big strides in doing that already. Probably you don't have that much left to finish. So that's not a big task at all. But I also recommend that you guys should continue writing essays. Write a few high quality essays for major topic areas in your course, as you would have done originally, right? That could be very useful for later on. I'll explain why later on. But also, continue making very high quality essay plans. That is very good advice at the moment. Again, I'll explain why later on. But that's how you should be continuing your study at the moment. Now let me explain in lots of detail why that's the best approach. Well, by continuing to study, if your teachers implement a system of assessment, whether now or in the future, or if they ask you for certain evidence, again, whether now or in the future, you're ready to go with that. You're ready to do that assessment if they implement it. You're ready to hand in that evidence if they ask for it, whether now or in the future. So you're in an excellent position if that's the way your teacher decides to go. But even if your teacher delays and says, look, for the time being, we're not sure what decision we're going to make. Let's say in the future, they decide to implement an assessment or they decide to ask you for evidence. Again, you are ready to go. You haven't been doing nothing. You're ready to then give that assessment. You're ready to then provide that evidence if they ask for it in the future. But let's say that the final calculated grade you get by the exam board, your final A-level grade or GCSE grade, isn't what you think is fair, isn't what you think you could have achieved if exams had gone ahead. You have got evidence to back you up and say, look, actually, the grade that I've received is way off what I think I could have achieved. You have the evidence to fight and appeal your final calculated grade if you think it's unjust. But also, maybe you're forced then to take exams in early autumn. Maybe you have appealed and it's been unsuccessful, in which case you're forced to take those exams. You're ready to go with those exams. You've got your revision notes made, you've done essay planning, you've written essays, you're in the right mind state to continue your revision, to make sure that when those exams come in the early autumn term, you're ready then to get the grade that you want. So that's reason number one why it's worthwhile for sure to continue studying right now. Another very good reason to continue studying is because I'm sure there are lots of students out there right now who feel that this process is not going to work well for them. Maybe you feel like the evidence teachers have got is going to lend themselves to giving you a final judgment grade that's going to be quite low. So maybe your mock exam results were not as you would have liked them to be. Maybe other assessments you've done in class are not quite as you would have liked them to have gone. Maybe other evidence that teachers have is not going to give you the high grade, the necessary grade that you need to get into university. So maybe you feel this process is a little bit rigged against you and you're worried that the final calculated grade, your final A-level grade, is not going to be the grade that you need to get into university, or not a grade that you feel is going to be representative of what your true ability is. And of course, that could be the vast majority of students, because let's be honest, a lot of students often will get a pretty mediocre mock exam grade, but then massively exceed that in their final exam. That's the normal trajectory, isn't it, from mock exam to final outcome. I know my own students often achieve like that. I know many students often achieve like that. So if you feel like this current system is not going to give you a final A-level or GCSE grade that's fair, that's representative of your ability, you might be forced to appeal, or you might be forced right now to fight. So maybe right now, by studying, by creating essay plans, by writing essays, you can fight and maybe hope that your teacher gives you a final judgment grade that gives you a better chance of hitting your university grade when your actual A-level result is published. Absolutely. But as I said, you might need to appeal, in which case you're ready for that appeal. You've got evidence to back you up. Or again, you might be forced to sit exams in the early autumn term and prove that actually you could have hit a high grade, in which case, again, you're ready to go. So if you feel like, as I said, this system is not going to work in your favor, then studying right now is by far the best approach to go. It's going to safeguard you. But also there might be many of you, for example, economics students who plan to do economics at university. It makes 100% worthwhile sense to continue studying right now, because the material that you cover in university is going to be very, very similar to A-level material, just delivered in a slightly different way. So what's the point in not finishing the course? What's the point in not having good content knowledge of the subject that you're going to be studying at university? So of course, finish off your content, finish off your revision notes, so then you're ready when university comes with the knowledge that you need. And I'm talking from personal experience here. When I went into university, I had a lot of my economics A-level knowledge still in my head, and that knowledge was really useful at my first and second year. My first and second year modules were essentially recovering the material that I covered at A-level, just delivered in a slightly different way. And that knowledge really helped me stay one step ahead of the game so that at university, I was able to do very, very well. The A-level knowledge helped me. So in this position, don't sit back and do nothing. How silly would that be if you're planning to study that subject at university? Finish off your notes, you're ready to go when university comes. Also, some of you might be thinking that this process is not right. This process is unjust. This process is not going to work for you. So some of you might have already made the decision that I'm going to sit that exam in the early autumn term. In which case, revising now, making notes now, doing essay plans, etc. is in your interest to prepare yourself to do well in those exams in the early autumn term. And as I've said already, some of you might be forced into taking that exam, maybe because you've tried to appeal, maybe because you feel that that final grade is so unjust, you've been unsuccessful in appealing it, that you have to take that exam in the early autumn term. In which case, obviously, making your revision notes now, doing essay plans is only going to help you in succeeding in that exam that you take. But also, another really good reason to continue studying is that revision skills, making revision notes and the skills associated with that, skills of essay writing, skills of planning essays, are not unique to A-level or GCSE exams. These are skills you're going to need at university. These are skills you're going to need when you're employed. These are life skills that you need. So if you continue studying, you continue revising, you continue writing essays, you're honing these skills, you're refining these skills so that when they are needed in the future, you're going to be able to do those tasks really well. Don't waste that opportunity. Those skills are going to be needed in the future. But also, you're going to be developing better personality traits, the ability of overcoming obstacles, taking hard decisions at hard times. For example, you're going to have great attitudes despite the uncertainty. You're making a difficult call, a hard call, instead of taking an easy option. These are good personality traits. They're going to help you when you enter university life, when you enter employment life. That kind of mindset, that kind of attitude is only a good thing. You're going to be a much more rounded academic person at the end for sure. So very good for life skills, very good for personality traits. Absolutely. By making a good call of continue studying rather than giving up and taking the easy approach. And let's be honest, economics is amazing. It's the best subject out there, right? So of course we want to continue our study of such a fascinating subject, a subject that teaches us about the world around us, a subject that can help us later on in life make really good decisions, and a subject that can help us understand what's going on at the moment economically. It's fascinating, it's interesting. Why would we want to give up on that? So it's worthwhile studying as well, bearing that in mind, that economics is great, it's going to help us make decisions later on in life. So let's continue finishing our notes and continuing having really good knowledge of economics. I'm talking to economics students here, obviously. But now look at the flip side as well. By sitting back and doing nothing, it's a worthless, reckless, and very dangerous decision to make right now. There is absolutely nothing to gain by doing that. You're taking a huge unnecessary risk. There is only something you can lose. However, if you continue studying, there is absolutely nothing you can lose by doing that. There is only gain from that decision. So it makes sense, it's rational to continue studying and potentially maximizing a gain by going that option instead of taking an unnecessary risk by sitting back and doing nothing. Don't take the easy shortcut. Continue studying. It's only going to give you benefit. I know that many of you must be feeling very low at the moment for a whole host of reasons. I totally understand. I feel exactly the same way. But it's important to stress that your future is still very much in your hands. You can still fight for your university place. You can still fight for a good judgment grade by your teachers. You can still fight if you feel that your final calculated grade is unjust and appeal it. And you can still fight if you need to take that exam in the early part of the autumn term. It's in your hands. And how can you control it? By studying now, by making your revision notes complete, by writing essay plans, by writing high quality essays generally. That is the safest option. That is the way to safeguard yourself, regardless of the decision that your teachers make, regardless of when your teachers make a call, regardless of the grade that you might be predicted. This is the best option for you. So I really hope, guys, that this video enlightened you a little bit as to where we stand at the moment, that you understand the implications, that you follow my advice. And please, guys, spread this to all students of A-levels, regardless of whether they're economics students or not, but also to GCSE students. I feel that this could really help them out. But also, guys, if you have any questions, any doubts, any concerns, I am here for you. Drop me an email, message me on Instagram. I'm happy to help. I'm not going anywhere. I'm here solely to give you guys and help you get to where you need to be. Thanks very much for watching, guys. All the best going forward.